Hello, all. Today, I'm going to unbag an oldie but a goodie. Well, we'll see. This is Strategy and Tactics, issue number 133, that contained the game Baton Rouge Street Fighting in the Louisiana Capital, August 5th, 1862. As it says on the cover, complete simulation game inside this issue. So this is part of the strategy and tactics line of magazine games. So a magazine and a game, and this game is Baton Rouge. And the best I can tell, at least from my limited research, but BGG and other places say that this is part of the great battles of the American Civil War. Now, this doesn't look anything like the current great battles of the American Civil War, but this is akin to the genesis of the great battles of the American Civil War, which was a terrible swift sword. And Richard Berg is the designer here. So let's get into the bag and see what is inside here. Oops, sorry about that. So these, I got this from Noble Knight, but I imagine these came in probably a brown envelope back in the day. And this is in pretty good shape here. Ooh, the bag's a little tight. And we have the counters there. Take a look at those right now. And these are, typical, magazine type counters. A little on the thin side, and I imagine they're going to come out with some nibs. These are probably ripe for counter clipping. I'm not a huge counter clipper, but I do find like decision games and older game and magazine games and games that have kind of nibs to be appropriate for that. So you can see the double sides there. And let's look inside. And you're going to get a map here. We'll take a look at that here in a second. But let's do a little quick page through of Strategy and Tactics number 133. And one of the reasons I picked this up, number one, it was relatively cheap. I've had this on my to film table for quite some time. This was not that expensive. I don't have a ton of Richard Berg titles, so this looked a little bit interesting. It's in the development stages of the great battles of the American Civil War, so I wanted to kind of take a look at that as well. It's a rarely covered battle, which is typical of magazine games and typical of my interests. I like trying to game or simulate or play the unplayed or the uncovered over time. And when we get to the map, you're going to see that it's a little different kind of map. I mean, this, as it says here on the title, Street Fighting, there is a city grid, but it's superimposed over a hex grid, or the hex grid is superimposed over the city grid. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But so it makes for an interesting looking map and conflict. So this is number 133. Let's see if we get the date on this. Yeah, I don't have the date on this. This, I would say this was in the 80s, but I don't see anything that's jumping right out at me to tell me that. Oh, there is something. I did look at this. We'll get to that here in a second. You got some advertisements in here. You have your table of contents. And again, this is, going to focus on this battle, but it also, talks here Summer and Smoke, the Mississippi River, and Baton Rouge. So it's going to talk a little bit about the order of battle for Baton Rouge and quite a bit of information on the CSS Arkansas, or, I lived in Wichita for a while, so the Arkansas. So the CSS Arkansas or Kansas, the Scourge of the Mississippi. And so there's some articles on that as well in here. And there's a large article on how Iran lost the how Iran lost / Iraq won the Gulf War. So, and this was probably done near that time period. So, yeah, I still don't see a copyright on here, but there's an ad for the Charles S. Roberts Awards, and so I'll point that out. I think that gives some idea of when this was published. So some regular articles or pieces that they cover over time here. And a lot of ads in this issue. Here it is, the Charles S. Roberts Award for calendar year 1989. So this would probably came out in probably in 90. Looking back to the year before. So, and these were the categories that were in the Charles S. Roberts Awards at that time. So kind of interesting there. Here's some more of this one article. This looks like it's talking about military history here. And goes on for quite a bit of time here. Then we get into the main article, which is Summer and Smoke. And it's talking about the Battle of Baton Rouge. So it's going to give you some of the history. And that's something I always like about magazine games is you get the history. Now, this is interesting. You're going to see this layout of the city here. And when we get to the map, you're going to see this same kind of layout, but superimposed over a hex grid, even down to the race course here. And then we get into the rules. And the one thing I do not like about strategy and tactics, well, the old ones. Now, the newer ones have the rules where they're glued to an advertisement for their magazines, so you can just peel them right off with the glue strip. Here they were stapled in the middle, so to pull these out, sometimes they were not all self-contained, and so it was a little messy, but you still had to undo the staples to get them out. And so a magazine like this that's not overly thick, and since it has the article about the battle in there, I'll probably keep this together. I use a clear envelope big enough to put the rules and the map and then the bagged counters in there, but I'll probably keep the rules in this magazine and just put that in the bag as well to not mess with it. Plus, it's an older magazine, and I kind of hate to mess these up the older they are. But you have your table of contents here, and this is something I haven't had a chance to do yet, is do a side-by-side between the current great battles of the American Civil War along with this version of it to see kind of what's changed over time. But you can see all the rules here. Plus, this is a little bit different game because I think it's a very much a different scale. You're in a tactical situation in the city streets, so I think it's definitely at a tighter scale than the typical series. So you've got your explanation of some of the counters there. And there's no strength points on the counters. There's a chart or a roster you need to keep track of. And I think I've never owned the Terrible Swift Sword. I did play it once, or part of it, a long time ago. I don't know if they had the original version of that had strength points or if it used a roster as well. But you're supposed to keep track of losses and strength points off on a roster. You have your leaders here, and of course they have name, command, rank, initiative rating, and command points and command range. Again, that is part of the great battles of the American Civil War, and something that Richard Berg took into the great battles of history, and also in some respects into Men of Iron. So it's a aspect of command or ways of simulating command that he carried throughout some of these designs. Again, different for those time periods, but still used aspects of it. Here's your sequence of play, action, reactions. Interesting here with all these reactions here, all these carrots that they have for different, what is this called here? Turn continuation table. some modifications to the turn continuation table. Quite a bit of modifiers there. You got movement, formations, facing, stacking, fire combat. As you can see, it's triple column. This is 80s magazine or an early 90s magazine, so that's all black and white, but triple column and relatively small print. Zones of control, ammunition supply, and then you have a lot of charts. And again, that's another aspect. Now, that I'm not fond of, having all the charts buried in the rules, because you're constantly flipping and trying to figure stuff out. So if you want to play this game multiple times or even once, sometimes you're probably going to want to make copies of this so you have everything off to the side that's easily referenced or being able to refer to. Later or current decision games or magazine games, they try to put a lot of these charts on the board itself or on the map itself, so that because they don't do player aids, right? Because it's just a magazine. You're going to get a map, you're going to get a counter sheet, you're going to get the magazine that has the rules. They don't have a lot of inserts on player aids, so you have to make your own, or they try to put it on the map. Back here, they shoved a lot of this inside the rules or inside the magazine itself. So you have quite a few charts here. And here's one of those roster sheets that I was talking about. This is your Union garrison at Baton Rouge and your Confederate Expeditionary Force. And then you're going to be able to tick off losses on this grid here. And they tell you right here, photocopy before play. Thanks for letting me know that. Here's some more ads. Here's strategy and tactics feedback. Interesting. And then a continuation of these rosters here. As you can see here, your artillery for both sides there. And then some command units, effectiveness level, fatigue status, and how to read the roster sheets. So here's how you read those roster sheets right there. So that's kind of buried in the rules, but something you're going to want to copy or pull out and use separately. Then we go into more tables that are buried in here. Your fire combat results tables, your assault results combat table, morale checks. As you can see here, I mean, this is not even though it's in a magazine game, there's a lot going on in this game. There's a lot of charts, a lot of modifiers. So this is, kind of a Berg Chromium type game. He's got a lot of stuff going on here. Melee initiation procedure, morale dice roll. Now in the melee, or melee, however you want to pronounce that, Stigler, that's going to be very important in this game, as I said, because you got street fighting. It's in the name, so there's going to be street fighting. So there's going to be a lot of buildings and up close and personal contact. So there's not a lot of places for like open firing and forming up a line. You're going to be in the thick of it if you get inside the city there and kind of have a street to street or building to building fighting. Leader casualty table, the Arkansas arrival. So there's going to be some potential naval here, vessel versus vessel, naval fire combat. So you've got not only land and street fighting, but you've got navals. You have navals. So again, one of the reasons I picked this up, this has got a lot going on in different types of combat. Here's ramming table. Here's the Union picket detection. So again, you've got your surf and turf going on in this game. Here's assault, again, for the up-close combat. More on assault, more on morale and rally, retreat. So as you can see, there's, quite a bit of rules here. Triple column, small type, not a lot of examples. Well, there's some examples of the counters up front, but the rest of the game is just pure text. Artillery fire and movement, leadership and organization, combat effectiveness. That's an aspect of the Great Battles series. Fatigue and exhaustion, naval rules, fog of war, Union pickets, and random events. So, yeah, this is there's a lot, a lot here. Then section 24 is your setup. Okay, that's when you get to the setup. Then you got victory conditions here. I do kind of like this where they do a roster of the counters that you get in here, so you get a chance to see the front and back of the counters. That's always a good use that kind of as a manifest, especially if you buy this used. And that's one reason I kind of do these unbaggings and unboxings. So, people that buy these used or want to check and see they got everything, this is, looking at stuff like this or watching one of these videos is a way to do that. And so the rest of this is outgoing mail. So the rest of this is back to the magazine standard fare. And then there's that article on the Gulf War here. And again, that's triple column and goes on for a few pages here. And it's reporting this. Remember that was for the 1989, that Charles S. Roberts, and here they're talking about 1988. So this is being done, or this article is relatively contemporaneous with some of the events that are taking place in the world at that time, the cruel spring of 1988. So you get a little bit of history here. It'd be interesting to match up what they were writing about and what eventually happened or what was going on. That might be interesting. Then you have that article on the CSS Arkansas or Arkansas, however you want to pronounce it, Scourge of the Mississippi. So I was talking about that there, which kind of fits in with the war game as well. It's kind of a support article for that. And then here is the Arkansas's antagonist. So I can get a little bit of its type, tonnage, length, speed, guns, and armor right there. If you want to play some ironclads, you might want to look at that. And here's Art, the Rock of Chickamauga. And some more articles or ads. Here's some classifieds. How about that? Somebody's looking for a gamer. I wonder if they're still looking. And then an article or an ad, I guess, back a page ad for a computer game, second front. So that is the magazine. So let's take a look at, and we've looked at the counters. So let's take a look at the map here. And as you can see right here, here's that race course that we saw on that one page there. So it's already being true to that one map we saw, or that one image we saw. I might have to pop up a little bit for this. It's interesting because if you look at this, it reads this way. Well, let me pop up a little bit more. I can't see here, but if you look here, there we go. So you got Baton Rouge, you've got a terrain key there, you've got the city, you got that racetrack, but then the turn track reads this way, so it reads the opposite direction. So you might want to lay it out like it was in the book there. Got a little bit of shine going on there. Sorry about that. But so you've got the water, coast, city, and then some inland area here. But you have a hex map or hex grid superimposed over this map, but there's a lot of buildings and urban area here that you're going to be fighting in. So quite a bit of different types of terrain between wooded and coast and city and streets and water and some streams or creeks. So if you look at that there, then this matches that. Where was that in here? That was early on. And here you go. So there's the city there, and then here's the Mississippi River and the city. So they did a pretty good job of putting those two together there. So there you have it. That is what you get in a magazine issue of Baton Rouge, street fighting in the Louisiana Capital. Part of Strategy and Tactics, issue number 133. Another reason why I decided to do this, finally get to this, is this turned into Civil War week. I did a postcard game on Civil War postcard game, a couple of Worthington Civil War Brigade Battle Series games, and now a Berg game. How about that? So there you have it. Love to know what you think about this. Have you played this? Do you is this playable? It looks like there's a lot going on here, but love to know what you think about this. I see this all the time at Noble Knight and even at my friendly local gaming store for not that much. So I decided to take a chance on it, pick it up, and see what it's about. Love to know if any of you have tried it and what you think about it, or anything that's on your mind. So that's what I have for you today. Again, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for spending some time with me, and take care. And here it is, stored away. Well, I haven't punched out the counters yet and put those in baggies, but this is how I kind of normally store my magazine games. Thanks. Thanks for watching.